Hi, this is Maggie, and this is a quick little video about how to make a nap blocker fill. There is one digitizing company that trademarked the phrase knockdown stitch. So they have that phrase for what the rest of us will call a nap blocker, or making a shape with a loose fill in the middle. Now, there are a few different ways to approach this, and I will do one that you can do in gold or the medium level if you have older software, or I'll do two that you can do in digitizing or create the ultra levels or the platinum levels of software. So I'll do a few different ones, and I'm going to start with what I would consider the simplest, and we're going to start right here in the embroidery module. So I'm just clicking blank project, and I've got, that's a decent hoop size so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll put a name in here. Let's see, I'll do Luda. I'll do my name. And I have a name in here, and I'm like, gee, I want a little nap blocker to sit underneath this. Now, the simplest way to do it is going to be in Quilt Block Wizard and making a shape. A lot of digitizing companies, people you buy designs from, may have a shape with some of it they call an emboss fill, and some companies used to give away free shapes with fill, and you can do a shape in the Quilt Block Wizard. So come over to the quilt block. Actually, I'm going to quit for a second. The thing that it helps if you know ahead of time, and see I started to do it without doing this first, is how big is this? So I want something that's going to be just a little bit short of 5.5 inches or 140 millimeters, and that will get me in the ballpark of what I need here. Now I double click for finish get length, and I go to my quilt block, and I want a filled quilt block with no inner shape. I just want to have the fill in a shape. Now, here are your choices of shapes, and you can choose to just put a plain old flat rectangle behind your words. I actually, if I was doing it here, I like the octagon, and I know that width-wise I want it to be, I said, about 4.5 inches. Again, you can use millimeters if you like. If you use inches, you need to do the double quote symbol, hit enter. And yes, this is way too big, but watch what we can do. Now, this is already set to diamond squares. Some people like the curved crosshatch. I actually like the plain old diamond, and I like it to end up at a spacing of about 2 or 2.5 millimeters. If you think of the stitches, when you look at your embroidery, a lot of times you're making a stitch that's 2 millimeters long. So when you look at that, if that's all little squares, is that tight enough for you? If you want something that's more of a fill, you would make it closer together. And if you want something wider, maybe it's a really loose terry towel and you just want a very light knockdown, you could go to 2.5 or 3 millimeters. And this is now what my shape will look like. And I click done, and it's not quite there. It's a little odd, but what I do now is I click resize, and I have the blue corners, and that tells me that I'm in resize, and I can make it a shape that just works around my lettering. Let's see, so that would be there, maybe a little bit more on that side, and that looks pretty even. And there you go. You basically have a shape with a knockdown stitch and your type. And you can, you know, make it a different color if you like. Maybe you want this to be light. And you would want it to stitch before your lettering if you did it all at once. So you want to go over to your film strip and make sure it's the first thing that stitches. And now if you have gold and you want a satin line or a bigger line around this, if I was doing a bigger line, see here, it's close. Sometimes I like it without any line, because then it becomes an outline shape. Whereas this, you could do the same color as a towel and it will kind of blend in. And I can even come down a little more if you like. But if you want an outline, you want to make it a specific shape, then I would give yourself a little bit more of a margin. And click Edit, because you have to go over to Stitch Editor or Modify if you're in one of the Premiere programs to do a border. And this border embroidery, if you say you want it to be right close, you want it to be 0 or 1 millimeter, and you want a satin line, and you want your satin line 4 millimeter, maybe we'll make it 3, make it a little tighter. And this dotted line is just showing you this is where it's going to come. It's, you know, I put it 1 millimeter away. I could put 0 if I wanted. And if I like where the border is, then I say create external border. So I have to hit that. And now I have that shape with the border. And there's my little nap blocker stitch with a border. And if you decided you didn't want the border, you're like, yeah, maybe I don't. You would, I was going to say you could ungroup it, but you could just click undo. So this is one way. This is Quilt Block Wizard again. It's in your wizards. And the main thing to know is that you can use resize and get the shape close to what your lettering is. Okay, so that was one way. Now I'm going to delete this. Oops, sorry about that, folks. That's the take care of some outside stuff. There we go. Now again, you know, I did the 4.5 and it was a little tight. Okay, so 5.5. That's, I know the shape again. Now, the other simple way, and I know some of you want the line that goes all around and it follows it, but the other simple way is to go into Digitizing and choose one of their shapes. There are all kinds of shapes in Digitizing. Some people want just a simple oval. And if you, again, I'm going to I'll do a running stitch line. I don't really want a strong line. I'll do the crosshatch, and I'll say I want my crosshatch. I'll give it, let's see how it looks at 1.5. And now I could do a circle, and the thing is you can make a circle because somebody was like, I want an oval. Now this is Digitizing, so you have to have the upper level of software, Platinum or one of the Alters or such. But you can see, you can make your shape however you want it here. And I had said I needed about 5.5 long, and I've shown you guys before you know, if I know, if I'm thinking in 1/2 inches, I can go over here and I can say I want, well, 25 millimeter is an inch, so a 1/2 inch is 12.5, so I could change this to 13 millimeters, and it's going to be just a little bit more than a 1/2 an inch. And then I could say, you know, 5 is, bring it to the edge so I have even ones, but you've got 2 of them is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Ha! So that was about what I needed for my name. And I could just do this and export it. And this is nap blocker for me. I'm going to delete this because we're going to end up coming back into digitizing in a little bit. And now what I could do here is find the one I called nap blocker. So I can open this, copy it, paste, and yeah, that's a pretty good size. And again, you would want to check and make sure that you're not stitching it on top of your lettering. You want your lettering on top of that. And we could make this the lettering light and see how that looks, and you've got a different look. So this is the 2 easy ways are simply doing a shape. There's a second one I wanted to show you here on digitizing. If you do like the idea of placing a shape with a fill, actually I should set my fill first, and I'm going, I stick with the crosshatch. Like I said, I know a lot of people go with the curved. The spacing of 1.5 was tight. Yeah, we'll make it 1.8, part way between. I want a running line. I don't really like the big satin lines around it. And when you choose shapes, if you go all the way down, the very bottom one, 118, makes a very nice shape for a name. If you're making this long and skinny, bring it in. And wouldn't a name look very nice within the shape? And if the ends are too much for you, you can always, you know, you could bring this in if you wanted. You can move points. You could, or you could actually, you could delete the, if you didn't want it to have those pointy ends, you could just delete the ends off there. And have this kind of a shape. So I did want to show you there's a few different shapes, and you can imagine a name written in the middle of that's a very nice look. And choosing the shapes is fast and easy, and it's actually pretty common. Like I said, a lot of companies were selling these pretty shapes that you could put behind your own wording. Now, a lot of you want the one that follows, and to make the one that follows, and let's put this back to a darker color for you guys to see, is if we didn't, and did I, in order to work this, we first have to fix it as stitches. So if you are opening something and typing in your letters in the lettering field, and you place it, and then you come over here and you're like, I want to edit it, and it doesn't let me edit. Why doesn't it let me edit? You know, it just brings me over to letter properties. Well, the reason is that you have to fix it as stitches first. And once you fix it as stitches, you come over to edit, and it will let you edit it in Stitch Editor. So if you of you were running into trouble, and again, the key is you have to fix it as stitches first and then go into Stitch Editor. Now in Stitch Editor, we have this wonderful border, and with the border, I find it easier to do running stitch, and this is because we're going to bring the border into digitizing. And sometimes I've done some in satin line, and you can experiment, and what you might end up with when you insert it into digitizing is some pieces of it show as a column and some show as satin, and then there are a little running underneath, and you end up with all different kinds of stitches that aren't a shape. And it's easier to make a shape for our purposes of the nap blocker with running stitch. Okay, and now you decide how close you want it. I don't like 10. Do you want a margin around it? So 5 millimeter, and you get to see it. And again, you see the line. Now you see at 5, you have these little bits here. We can delete them, or if you don't want to delete them, give yourself a larger margin, and suddenly the insides don't also have a border. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to 5 because I want to show you how to delete them. So we're going to have these little pieces in here. I'm going to say create external border. And now the easy thing to do is to come over here. And again, we're going to need to make this, now go over there. So we're back in. All you have to do is shut it. You don't have to save or anything when you go from embroidery to edit, and it brings you into Stitch Editor. You just close it, and now we're here with these little bits. Now, all you have to do is hit the Modify tab, and I don't want to deal with that. I want my letters out of the way. That one's the border. So now that I've got that done, I just highlight everything and erase them, and they're all gone. Now I have the border and my lettering, and this is going to seem counterintuitive to you guys, but what I do is basically we want only the border to bring in to, so let's say I do, to bring into digitizing. So you can do File New, Blank Project, if you wanted to save your lettering and not hurt it, or if you didn't already have it in a file, then you would take the lettering off, go over here where it says, this is select all visible, do Command Copy, go into your new file, do Command Paste, and now I just have the border. And this is for you guys, so this is video nap blocker. Oops, I got an A in there. Okay, so this is the one I need, and I need to export it in order to bring it into digitizing as an embroidery. So this does have steps, it has more steps. And now I didn't need that one anymore. I'm just closing things out so we don't have as much on the desktop. So now I open digitizing. I go File, Edit. I didn't need to do File. I always think it's File, but it's Edit, Insert, Insert Embroidery. And I think it ended up on the desktop. There we go. Okay, so you'll see now I have a running stitch shape in digitizing. And what you do is you click on it and you say Properties. And right now it has no fill because I brought it in as a border. And again, I'm just going to go down to the crosshatch, fill, and it's still set from the last time when I was doing a shape at 1.5 millimeters, which is a little open, but not too bad. It's tight. And here we go, that I have a running stitch around it and basically a very close nap blocker stitch. And now I can export this. And this is done video nap. Let's hope I remember these names. Now this one I don't really need the border anymore. I only wanted to make sure I had the lettering. So I can do this, and I don't need the border. I can get rid of the border. So I have the file with my lettering, and I have put the done video nap blocker in the My Design. So I open that, copy it, bring it in here and paste. And again, make sure that my lettering stitches on top. So the nap blocker stitches first. And maybe I want this a different color, just so you can see it. Well, it's gonna look weird, but, and you can see you have the nap blocker. And again, I'm doing it without a satin line, but as I showed you, you can add one if you like. I do not use a satin line when I create the border and bring it into digitizing, and you can play with it and see what a mess it comes in at. So here we go, folks. This was supposed to be a short video. If you have questions, come into the Facebook group and we'll be happy to help you out. Be aware that I personally live rurally, and when it is storming in Northern California, I often cannot get into the internet because I'm on a satellite connection and it doesn't work through really strong storms. So every now and then people start asking questions and think, where are you? But I am not online all the time, but all different people are. So come on over and check us out and let us know if this works for you. And if you have some questions, we'd be happy to answer them.